Oh, hi. I have Toby Pasman. Is that correct?
That is, yes.
With me. Thank you very much for listening. This is Brian, and I'm putting this on the Immortal Self. So, can you tell me how, why you reached out to me?
Yeah, I feel like the work with neurotechnology that I do kind of is a related work, it seems like to what you do. And I think it's in the same way that meditation and hypnosis are awesome tools to kind of hack the brain and enhance various different cognitive functions. I think that the neurotechnology stuff that I work with is also super powerful. So that's kind of why I reached out to connect.
Well, thank you. So, what are you working with machines or is it just models of behavior?
Yeah, so basically the neurotechnology I work with, um, it kind of ranges from what's called QEEG brain mapping, which is basically recording the electrical activity of a person's brain. And then the computer basically transforms that raw EEG data that kind of looks like just these squiggly lines. The computer transforms that into these 2D images of the brain. So we're then able to kind of visualize, uh, you know, the specific brainwave frequencies, and we're able to see, is a person's brain producing them in healthy quantities? Are they underproducing them, or are they overproducing them? And in which specific areas is that occurring? So that's one of the technologies I work with. I also work with neurofeedback, neurostimulation, and some other technologies that we can then use to actually alter the electrical brainwave patterns, and work on kind of regulating the electrical activity of the brain.
That that sounds amazing. So, are you able to create change or like is that in the mind when you're doing
Yeah,
that?
no, so I mean, biologically, there's a lot of things that are going on when someone is, using, these different technologies. So take neurostimulation, for instance. It's going to greatly increase blood flow to the brain, increases neuroplasticity. So your brain's actually more able to kind of reorganize itself and rewire itself. Also drives up neurogenesis, which is the creation of new brain cells and new connections amongst those cells in specific areas of the brain. So we're actually producing biological changes in the brain, and that results in a lot of great improvements for people's kind of psychological states.
So it's let me get this picture in my head. I have a picture of a hairnet basically with little diodes on them, and then that would send the electricity into stimulate by electricity.
Similar. So what you're sort of describing sounds like the EEG technology
Yeah.
that I was talking about. And that is recording what the brain is doing. So that's not actually giving any electrical input to the brain. You can do EEG neurofeedback where you're basically, say you're kind of playing a computer game with your mind, as
Hmm.
crazy as that sounds, but basically the computer, you'd be watching a screen, and say, as your brain produced more of the desired electrical frequencies that we'd want it to be producing, you would see the screen get bigger. Or if it's audio, the audio would get louder. So hence the feedback. It's kind of telling your brain, okay, good job, you're doing what we want it to be doing. And then if your brain deviated from that desired electrical activity, those tones would go away, or you'd see the screen get smaller. So kind of that's the sort of negative feedback there. But yeah, so that's kind of neurofeedback you can do with that kind of electro cap that you're talking about. But with neurostimulation, what that looks like is basically anywhere between usually 2 to 6 electrodes that are placed kind of at different areas on the head, kind of along the scalp. You basically put kind of scoop some this electro paste onto each electrode and then clean off the specific area of the person's head that you're wanting to put it on just with an alcohol wipe, and then you would just place the electrode there. So that's kind of how the neurostimulation works.
Sounds pretty clinical. Are they planning on making home kits, or is there not a need for that, or like?
There are some home kits, absolutely, and I think definitely the quality there definitely varies. Some products may be all right, some may not do much, but it's a little like shooting in the dark with some of this stuff if you're playing around with it yourself,
Right.
because
And
you don't
sorry.
know like what you're wanting to train the brain to do.
Right. You don't want to train it to do something that you don't want it to do.
Exactly.
Um, let's take anxiety. If you have a lot of anxiety and you have a hard time um like following your schedule, or just like sitting down, you have a schedule. Once you start, you're okay. But like just sitting down, that's what I do. I'd rather just pace sometimes than follow my schedule. So what are some things that I can do to have a good attitude and retrain my brain so that I don't like doing nothing, that I can be productive, and knowing the difference between how much rest I need and how much TV I can watch, and how much actual work, creative work I have to put out, which is hard because creative writers, that's really difficult job. I'm trying to be one writer.
I would say that it certainly, the better you can improve kind of the biological functioning of your brain, the less anxiety you experience, the more productivity, the easier it is to kind of stick with changing habits. So, whether that comes from using the different kind of neuromodulation tools that we've been talking about, or just, making sure you get adequate sleep, 7 to 8 hours of sleep each night, focusing on, nutrition, eating a low inflammatory diet, kind of staying away from processed foods and sugar is really helpful. Um, Exercise, is great for the brain, specifically like high intensity interval training or like sprints can be really powerful. So, kind of the better you get your brain to be working, I would say the easier it is to implement some of what you're talking about. And then it also just comes down to, the brain, when we're wanting to change a habit, it's something that, once we do repetitively, the brain then starts getting accustomed to that new habit. So if, for instance, with procrastination, if it's really difficult the first few days to kind of force yourself, say, to write, instead of watch TV, that might, if you kind of stick with that and just kind of, teach your brain, this is what we're going to do, and you just kind of use initial willpower, that it'll get a lot easier because the brain will start kind of developing that new habit over time.
That that sounds like a good explanation. As far as anybody, there's no magic pill. Honestly, I wish I could take a pill that put me into the flow state, in the creative mind where the muse was right there, and write my fiction novel.
We're
But
all we've all been looking for that, and I think there's certain, there's certain nootropics or smart drugs where you can play around with that. I don't know
I
if
don't
I don't know
know,
if
but
anything gets to the point of like where Bradley Cooper in
oh,
Limitless,
Bradley Cooper. Yeah,
right? That
that's
I don't
the
know if that exists. I don't know if that ever will exist, but
oh, here's
there's
one. Did you see Lucy?
I haven't. I need to see that.
Yeah,
I,
that one's even better. It yeah, anyway, I won't talk about it, but it's pretty. I recommend it to the older people that can watch rated R movies.
right on.
Anyway, so like, is there like a routine? Like, what do you do to motivate yourself? Like, I'm sure you need to motivate yourself every once in a while. Like, what do you do to motivate yourself?
I'm a big fan of hip hop music. I love listening to hip hop, and I kind of feel like that kind of primes my brain for that. Just kind of sort of just I don't know, digging down deep, and motivates me to hustle and get everything done. And yeah, I think it's also just kind of a thing of just sort of like keeping the end goal and sort of mission in mind. So I really want to, with my company, I really want to bring these neuromodulation services to as many people as possible. So when I keep that goal in mind, it kind of helps me kind of trudge through some of the mundane tasks of setting up a email list or newsletter, set certain things that might not be super exciting for me to do. But when I keep that end goal of what my mission and purpose is, when I keep that in mind, that kind of helps me kind of get through some of those more mundane tasks, I'd say.
Tell me more about your company and
Yeah,
what they do.
so Roscoe's Wetsuit Neuro is basically an applied neuroscience company where we offer both. We do neurohealth coaching, where we talk about how you can optimize your brain functioning with diet, supplementation, exercise, nootropics, from the latest kind of peer-reviewed neuroscience research. And then also we do, we're going to start doing neuromodulation services in the Miami Fort Lauderdale area beginning in November of this year. So we'll actually be able to record those brain maps on people, be able to show people the electrical activity of their brain, and then work with technologies that I've been talking about, like neurofeedback, neurostimulation, and a couple other ones, to then sort of hack the brain and work on regulating and improving the electrical activity that was initially seen to be a bit dysregulated on the brain maps. So it's kind of in the same way that someone might hire a physical trainer to get them in the best shape of their life, and that person put together a workout plan for them, a meal plan for them, and ensure they stick with it. I'm kind of marketing myself as a neuro trainer. So that's a bit about the company.
Well, I hope you have great success with that. What's the website?
Yeah, it's www.roscoeswetsuitneuro.com. So to spell that out for listeners, it's ROSCOESWETSUITNEURO.com. And if you sign up for our free email newsletter, you can receive a free 6 steps to better cognitive performance PDF that's going to break down, 6 things that you can do right now that you can implement today to actually work on kind of getting the most out of your brain. So I'd highly recommend people go ahead and check that out and sign up for that newsletter.
What's one of them? Can you think of it?
Yeah, so one I guess a
Just
sneak
one.
peek of that, yeah, would be nicotine. So taking nicotine is something. Nicotine, as most people know, is the addictive chemical that's in cigarettes and tobacco products. But nicotine by itself is actually really powerful in improving a variety of aspects of brain functioning. So taking like a low dose nicotine lozenge, or you can do like a patch or nicotine gum. There's a variety of different ways to get it isolated
I'm
from
liking you.
tobacco.
I like
I mean,
actually.
it's, writers, you look at the history, it's like a lot of creative writers, have been using nicotine and caffeine, to kind of fuel their creative endeavors.
I used to smoke, but now Zin and On are what I like. They're nicotine salt in a little pouch. You don't need to spit or anything like that, and it goes up in your lip, and it's a pouch full of. So I like that the most because cigarettes, nicotine gum doesn't fill the spot as much, and but I don't want to smoke anymore and have lung problems. But that's interesting that you're promoting the use of nicotine. That
Yeah, from the research that I've looked at, there's researchers, neuroscientists who are studying how nicotine can improve both like neurodegenerative conditions like Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. They're seeing great results for those conditions, along with treating like say ADHD, attention deficit disorder. They're seeing really good effects. I think they usually use the nicotine patches in studies, but yeah, nicotine is really powerful for the brain. The brain actually has built-in sort of receptors for nicotine called nicotinic acetylcholine receptors. So nicotine is kind of a lock, uh, or rather a key that fits perfectly into the lock that is the receptor in the brain. So it can do a lot of cool things.
Wow. Is there anything else you'd like to share or talk about or teach us?
I did create a special um, promo code for the listeners of the show. If people are interested in signing up for neurohealth coaching, they can go to roscoeswetsuitneuro.com and use the promo code Brian21, and that is going to get you 15% off your first neurohealth coaching session. So it's a special offer just for your listeners. And there's also a free 15-minute neurohealth coaching consultation that I offer. So I can, answer any questions that people have before they actually choose to get started. But yeah, if they're interested, there's that promo code Brian21 that they can use to get 15% off.
So that thank you so much. I was thinking, I appreciate that. That's very thoughtful. I was thinking, I it would be nice to well, anyways, this has been really nice. I really appreciate it. I don't want to lose contact with you, Toby. So keep in touch. Keep message me on Matchmaker or email um in a month or so if you want to come back. Um or if you have your own podcast. Do you have your own podcast?
I do. Yeah. Yeah. We could definitely set something up and have you on there. That would be awesome.
Yeah, you know how to get to my calendar. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Yes. And also, I just wanted to extend the invitation if you are ever in the Miami, Fort Lauderdale area. please, contact me. I'd love to hook you up with free, complimentary brain mapping and neuromodulation services so you can
Well,
actually try out this technology that we've been talking about.
well, that sounds very, very appealing. I've had a almost impossible time starting a hypnotist practice or hypnotherapist practice. So I'd like to know what works for you in the future. You know what I'm saying? Meeting people and talking. But anyway,
Yeah.
totally different things, but it's about my hypnosis is about vocational, avocational self-improvement, changing the mind, changing bad habits to good habits, changing negative associations. Fears and phobias are one of the only things that hypnosis or can cure, or nothing else can cure fears and phobias besides some hypnosis other than confronting it head on or whatever.
I'm a huge fan of that. Hypnosis, I think I've had a few hypnotists on my show already, and yeah, I'm super fascinated by what, hypnosis can provide people.
Yeah, when I first saw it, when I was in LA County Fair and I saw the stage hypnotist, this is a bad smell, this is a bad smell. And one of the participants on stage started having a bloody nose. I was like, wow, this is mind over matter stuff, just because, pretty powerful if it can cause someone to bleed out their nose just by picturing a bad smell. Anyway,
I hear you.
I'll let you go, Toby. Thanks so much for being here and listening and talking to my few very small listenership. Appreciate it.
Absolutely, Brian. It was a pleasure being on the show. Thank you so much for having me on.
Okay. Yeah, just email me when you have a free time for your show. Just put me on your schedule, okay?
Will do.
Thanks.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.